There we go.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Virtual Tasting Society. I am not Vadim Pravovsky. I am Jason Souter, and we glad to have everyone here
Uh-oh.
tonight. Tonight we are blessed to have Brett Wyman back with us after our great tasting with him a few weeks ago with Oban, and now we're back with Lagavulin, one of my personal favorites and one of the whiskeys that actually started me down this rabbit hole. And so we're glad that everyone is here. Brett, take it away.
Awesome. Thank you, Jason. Hi, everybody again. Yeah, Lagavulin, I just was doing some reading again before this just to kind of like see what new things I could find. And um, it's just such a resilient brand. It really is. And the distillery, right? Like super, super resilient. Started in 1816, right? Lagavulin Bay, one of the original places where some of the basically the Celtics moved up into. Um, I mean, there's a castle at the end of the distillery called Dunaveg Castle that is, it's seen better days. Robert the Bruce used it as a post in the 1300s, but it's still there, and it just kind of speaks to the history of some of the original Scotties, right? We were talking about that with Oban too. They settled, we found remains behind Oban of humans from the Mesolithic area, so essentially the Stone Age. And we're a couple years later in Lagavulin, but still just people have been here, right? I mean, and nowadays probably 4,000 people live on the Isle of Isla, mostly fishermen, right? Able-bodied seamen, and then distillers and farmers. So extremely rural area, beautiful, beautiful place. When I visited, if it's a windy day, uh, the road as you're passing. Lefroy on your way there, Ardbeg's on the other side, and the road is literally rolling on a windy day because you're rolling over those peat bogs. It's a cool experience. But we were probably distilling, we found records as far back as the 1740s, where we were distilling illegally in Lagavulin, but we officially became legit in 1816. Kind of noodled around through a couple of owners until this guy, Peter Mackey, took it over. 1890 was about when Peter became senior partner. And so from there, they, they're kind of growing, they're doing little things like they enabled a Clyde puffer ship so that you could now take empty bottles of barrels of Lagavulin up to Glasgow, or I'm sorry, Glasgow would come. We'd bring barley, like peat and stuff, raw materials up to Glasgow, bring them barrels of Lagavulin. They would send us empty barrels from Glasgow, and we just kind of keep going back and forth, right? Um, Peter went from kind of having his own business to creating White Horse Distillers. And then White Horse Distillers became Distillers United, which Distillers United merged with Guinness in '97 to become Diageo. So that boat, I think, was even that kind of main X factor there because they started using that boat to go to Kalila and then all the way up to Talisker. And so they kind of, took advantage of that line and that distribution line, I guess. But um, I think even more interesting about the distillery is it was pretty janky in the beginning. I mean, our mash tuns were half inside, half outside, and that lasted until the 1950s when we got electricity at the distillery for the first time in 1948. And then 2 years later, had a massive fire and had to completely rebuild the distillery, right? I guess not a super uncommon story for whiskey distilleries back in the day. But right, so like we didn't move the mash tuns indoors until the 1950s, like 1953. So I mean that just kind of speaks to the thing in itself. I mean, I always tell this story about Peter too, because he was kind of a psycho. His nickname was Restless Peter. He was just kind of a relentless businessman. So Lagavulin doing all right. We're doing like 127 gallons of production in like the early 1900s. But despite the growth, we lose the sales agency to Lefroy. Peter gets fucking pissed and he goes on this mission to essentially recreate a better version of Lafroig on ancient Isla lines on the distillery. So he creates a distillery within the distillery called Malt Mill. And that opened, I believe, in around like 1920s, or a little bit before, because Peter died in like the 1920s. So 1924, Peter passed. So he starts malt mill to essentially create like the most authentic, Isla malt. And it was doing all right. They shut it down in 1960. I think probably when Distillers United took it over, they just kind of wanted to consolidate the thing. But what was cool is they used so we used five stills there, and so we took two of the pot stills and from malt mill and ran them into the Lagavulin lines now. So we still have some aspects of malt mill that are at Lagavulin now that we've integrated into what our stills are now. Does anyone have any questions just about like history so far with Lagavulin? Because yeah, great. Um, because from there, it's kind of like growth, growth, growth. 1989, Lagavulin 16 becomes the classic malt of Islay, and that's kind of what blows Lagavulin up into more of like a global brand versus something a little bit more local. Um, shall we talk about the juice?
Absolutely.
Tremendous. Awesome. So what's unique about lag, right? So a couple of things. Um, so local peat, right? Nothing super crazy about that. We do a 45 to 50 hour fermentation, so a nice like nutty fermentation. The biggest difference is we got four stills at Lagavulin. They're very tall. They're not quite as tall as the Glenmorangie ones, but the height of those helps us out with the copper contact. So we get a lot of copper contact on Lagavulin, which is why you're not gonna get like a medicinal quality to this whiskey. It should hopefully be just like a nice sweet peat, right? Um, we also spend 9 hours in the still. So that again is like twice as long as any other distillation method outside of like a Glenmoe or something. But for an Islay malt, that is a long time in the still. And again, we think it lends itself to the character of the whiskey in the sense of like we're getting rid of all that kind of Robitussin medicinal rubber tire sulfurous kind of flavor, right? And I love, I feel like people don't even realize that Lagavulin 8 is still around, but it's like such a great whiskey to start with because you really get distillery character. I mean, it's so light, right? I feel like you can really get a sense of how much time it's spending in the still tasting it this way. I mean, it's almost like God, it's like borderline a new make, right? But we only do oak or ex bourbon cask here, and yeah, we're at like 48%, so it's a little higher ABV than 16. But I find 8 to be like a wildly underrated skew of Lagavulin, comparatively speaking. Um,
I actually sometimes I prefer the 8 over the 16, depending
yeah,
on the
sure.
day.
I mean, like this this probably doesn't apply to this group, but everyone's trying to cocktail with everything, even these expensive scotches. But if you were to cocktail with a Lagavulin, I think it's significantly better to cocktail with the 8 versus the 16, because it just plays. 8 is and 8 would be like the entry level version of Lagavulin. Yes. Yeah, the core range for is technically 8-year, 16-year distillers edition. You mostly hear about just 16 and distillers. We don't do a ton of stuff around 8, but again, and especially for the price point, I think it's only like $63 retail right now or something like
Yeah.
that.
I
So,
mean, I find it most places it's a rare thing that I actually see they have the 8.
right, right.
So
Yeah. Um, for those of you who are local SoCal, and you like the Porsche experience, they just put a Lagavulin 8 sour on the menu. It's kind of like a sour, it's like a New York sour, the little red wine float. So if you like the Porsche experience and like the lunch place there, go check out the Lagavulin cocktail. Um, does anybody have any questions or kind of like thoughts, tasting notes on the 8? Yeah.
It's not tasting notes on the eight. I just more had a question about the copper, and you were saying how much copper contact actually reduces the medicinal taste of it. Is that specifically something that Lagavulin has that nobody else does, or is that
No,
something?
copper in general purifies spirit, right?
Right.
So it's naturally going to pull flavor. The less copper contact and the higher ABV, typically the more kind of like sulfur note occurs.
Mm-hmm.
So the more you ramp up copper and the more you ramp up copper contact, like the more you're gonna kind of keep stripping flavor, right?
Right. Okay.
Which sounds terrible, but for what we have for a base with that like nutty fermentation, that pe peatiness of Lagavulin, we get so much going on that we feel personally that it refines it a lot better.
Right. It's almost like a single blend red wine versus something that's got like three things fighting each other.
Sure, you got it.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks.
hmm Any other thoughts, questions?
I think the eight is the only one that, because of the other things that have different casks, the eight's the only one that has the citrus notes just from the distillate. Um,
It's way more citrus. I still think there's citrus in 16, but it's so much more present in 8. Yeah, good call out. Yeah. Anything else? Should we move on to 16?
It's just beautiful smoke.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. I said yeah, 35 ppm across the board for Lagavulin 2, right? For context, Lefroy 10 is like 40, 45, Talisker other way 25. Right, and then your Ardbegs and like your Octomores can get up into like the 100 to 300 range.
and for
So
all of them is, I heard from somebody at the malting house, the Lagavulin and Kulila up until the distillation points are exactly the actual cut points are the exact same as far as the barley goes through the peating process, the fermentation, the mash, everything, and then it's the actual distillation cut points that makes one Lagavulin and one Kulila, right?
So the raw materials are coming from Port Ellen, so that's a yes. I mean, if like probably there's one school of thought that would probably be like yes on that. If you talk to like the master blenders or Stewart or any of the distillers, like if you want to get super nerdy, they're gonna be like, well, like our stills are different from their stills, and they're different shapes, and it creates
Right.
so I'm sure. You know what I'm saying? You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Yeah, like they would probably say absolutely not, but there's definitely a tie. There's definitely something there to what you're saying for sure. Yeah, yeah, Vidium. All single malt's the same. All taste the same. That's correct.
Mm.
The Guinness cask is part of the Offermans, right? So I'm just talking about I'm going through comments here. It's like impossible to find Guinness cask nowadays. Like I believe it or not, I have never gotten to try the 11-year Guinness cask. Um, should we move on to 16?
Absolutely.
Tremendous.
sure.
Okay. Not much to say about the 16 other than, right, I talked about it being the classic malt of Isla. But in terms of process, it's the exact same. It just spends another 8 years in that ex-bourbon cask. So, I mean, again, like,
And a lower ABV.
and a lower ABV. Yep. See, you're already stumping the brand ambassador. I'm not a brand ambassador anymore. That's correct. We're like, yeah, 3% lower. And
It,
even like
it's
difference
it's
there.
so it's so subdued compared to the eight.
Yeah, and again, like the reason the ABV is lower too, that's total like personal preference, right? I would love a taste of the Guinness cask. Thank you so much. 2118 Carnegie Lane. Hey, how are you? No, I'm kidding. Um uh Yes, so it's all personal preference. It's all based off of what the master blender. So for us, Stuart Morrison, well, this is going to predate Stuart, obviously, but they're like that choice come is purely up to that like master blender, right? So it has to do with them just saying, hey, this is what we think tastes the best. But massive difference, right?
Yeah. So different yet, but there's so many similarities too, right? I mean, it's
Yeah, it's like a it's
it,
just kind of, it's like
yeah.
a sweeter version of all those notes, right? You get the citrus, you get the maritime, a little bit of like that iodine. I always get like a bit of like a coffee note too, or like an espresso, but I'm weird.
It's so nice on the tongue. It almost feels like velvet when you're
Yeah.
rolling it across. It's a really nice, warm, enveloping kind of strength to it. I really like the ABV and the combination of all the spices in there too.
Lagavulin's a good buzz. Lagavulin a good buzz, right? Yeah, it's like it's like a red wine buzz, but like with more energy. In my
Yeah.
opinion. Yeah.
Yeah, I always said with the 16, if you could encapsulate the feeling of being in front of a fire in a giant like library, wearing a smoking jacket with a pipe,
Yeah.
that is the
Mm.
feeling that Lagavulin tastes like.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
And I can tell you from experience when the botanical garden have their Christmas light show, and you buy a tin of the Danish butter cookies, and you bring a bottle of Lagavulin.
Oh,
That's a really good combination.
Yeah, that sounds incredible.
Yeah.
Your little dunk.
You can. I didn't go that far, but no, it was great.
I'll
We
have
have
to
to do
do
the do,
that.
do the pinky.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Aw.
Though we were talking about cocktails with the 8 year, the I do know from experience the 16 makes a very good Black Manhattan.
Oh, there you go. I've never made
Is
one of
that
those.
what the red
16.
wine?
The yeah, so for that one, either red wine or sweet vermouth, and
Mhm.
then with black walnut bitters and amaro.
Yeah, it's typically like significantly more bitter. Nice black Manhattan.
Yeah, no, I normally like a perfect Manhattan with smoked cherry bitters and a Luxardo.
Funny you say that. Sorry, is this a Distiller's Edition 23? We're gonna taste this Distiller's Edition 23. Yes, that we're gonna taste next. Um so we did a cocktail for Tails this past year that we partnered. Have you guys heard of the Hawksmoor? There's one in New York and there's one in London. It's like kind of like an elevated steakhouse. Pretty not kind of, it's a beautiful elevated steakhouse. But Adam Montgomery, their beverage director, he originally did it with Talisker 18, but we did it with Lagavulin Distillers Edition for the event. But we did it was the best Rob Roy I've ever had. It was Distillers Edition. We washed it in beeswax. And then we had a couple of different vermouths. It was like a Chinato Barolo, and then I think Cochi Americano, like a nice like chocolatey vermouth. Uh, there was a bit of a cherry element, and we used like the Jack Rudy cherries, and there was some saline in there too. It was unbelievable. Funny you say
Wow.
that with smoked cherry
I'm
bitter,
gonna
little beeswax, yeah.
the bee so you fat washed it with beeswax?
Fat wash the Distiller's Edition with beeswax. If you're
Wow.
gonna do that at home, do it with a pan you don't care about. It's gonna ruin your pan.
Oh, I'll bet. Yeah, it's probably like go get the one out of the trash with all the
That's
dead.
exactly right. They have like a designated one that is like strictly the Tally 18 beeswax wash pan, and that's it.
Wow. I'll have to, and you said what was it with? It was Amaro bitters and
We did. I can look it up and send it to you. I'm brain farting on a little bit, but it was beeswax wash. So we did. It was a split between beeswax wash Distillers Edition, Oban Distillers Edition. Then it was the Chinato Barolo vermouth, Cochi Americano, saline, And then I got to double check the cherry element. It might have been either just we garnished with the Jack Rudy cherry, but we
Hmm.
had like cherry and like beeswax cubed, so you could like have them both together as you sipped. And I feel like there's one more element that I'm missing, but I can look it up and send
Yeah,
it to you.
if you could send that to me, that sounds
Yeah,
amazing.
I'll link with Vadim. I can send you,
Yeah,
honestly, I can send you the entire spec, or I can send
awesome.
everybody that spec. But yeah,
Yeah, I'm just south of him in San Diego.
cool. Perfect. Perfect. Moving on. Yeah. Any other thoughts, questions about 16? Good segue into Distiller's Edition, I guess. All right. So this is the 2023 Distiller's Edition. Um, so with our distillers editions, we make them the same every year, but they deviate in flavor a little bit because so what we do is, and you'll notice there's not an age statement on our distillers edition bottles, uh, and that goes across the board, right? So with Talisker distillers, open distillers, it's all that we all do the same thing because we have a couple of different ages in here. What we do is we take some barrels that are kind of on their way to 16, or they might be 16 years old, or they might be a little bit older. But 16, Open 14, Johnny Walker Black, right? Like they all have to taste the same. So even though these are single malts, we still have to match, like we have to match that expected flavor every year. Johnny Black, the ratio of those whiskeys will change annually to match that flavor, right? So when we have barrels that we still love, but they're kind of just like for whatever reason taking like some sort of a different turn, whether it's like the weather or the saturation of the barrel, whatever, right? Any of these like kind of factors that are out of our control. We'll take them, we'll bring them together, and then we'll age them. We'll do a double maturation for another 6 months and for Lagavulin Pedro Jimenez sherry seasoned casks. So they'll be aging in the ex-bourbon cask, and then we'll take some other ex-bourbon casks and we'll season them with Pedro Jimenez sherry, dump them, and then put the Lagavulin in those barrels so that they'll get a bit of that sherry influence. Make sense?
Oh.
Yeah, so it's not going into a pure sherry barrel, it's going into a sherry seasoned cask. So, which is kind of wild because I feel like the sherry really changes this whiskey.
Yeah, it tastes a
And
lot sweeter.
right, it's this Lagavulin Distillers Edition is amazing. I think this year's or last year's has gotten even sweeter, right? If you tasted like even Oban, I'd say is the same thing. Like if you tasted a 2020 or a 2021 Distillers Edition, a lot more like wood and spice. I feel like here you're getting way more of that like that the toffee, right? Like the caramel, that like cooked stewed red fruit,
Hmm.
almost like raisiny on the Distillers Edition, right? Um,
Hmm.
This is cigar whiskey.
yeah, this is I call it dessert Lagavulin. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. It is very similar to Eiswein's with you can even see the legs on it. It's crazy.
Yeah, way thicker, right?
Hmm.
That's obviously again coming from your sherry, but can you imagine? I mean, I, what if we just like went 100% sherry cask on a Lagavulin? It'd be pretty intense.
Yeah, I wonder why they don't do that versus just washing it. It must be cost then, right?
I think it's no, I don't think so, because I mean, shoot, we have some pretty expensive logs, right? Um, but um, but I just think it's more about like controlling flavor, right? It's like I think they want to maintain the character of what Lagavulin is
Hmm.
and just kind of, just a little sprinkle.
Yeah, I got a
Okay.
German independent bottling. It was 12-year Lagavulin, finished in Palo Cortado casks. And the
Oh
problem
wow.
was it was delicious, but you couldn't tell it was Lagavulin anymore. Like
Mm.
Yeah.
plus the characteristic, it was delightful and we downed the bottle of it, but if you didn't know it was Lagavulin, you wouldn't have known it.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. I think it's much more about that, right? Like Diageo whiskeys specifically are really like they're really nerdy about like it has to still like have the origins
Keep the
of the
character.
distillery.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's almost
Yeah.
like protecting a trademark. You're protecting your flavor and your,
Yeah, for sure.
mash bill, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. How are we feeling? Any other questions? Moving on.
I'm comparing the 2023 to my 2020 distillers.
Oh, tell us. Tell us. What do you think?
Yeah, the 2023 is definitely a lot sweeter,
Yeah,
but I think I like the 2020 better.
that's fair. That's fair.
But I have to chew on it. I guess I didn't necessarily realize what version I had, but this is good. It's
Yeah,
different.
the older ones have like some like blue on the label.
Yeah, this one says batch LGV4/509.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do miss that. I'm not gonna lie. Like we also used to put the distillers on the bottles too. Oban would do that with the old yeah, yeah, so that one's got him too. Yeah. I know I do miss that. I do miss that. I don't know exactly why we do that nowadays. Because these ones, yeah, no. Caribbean
I mean, they're
cast?
both good. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, yeah, hey, good problems, right?
Yeah, but yeah, definitely not as sweet as the other one.
Yeah, I got a bit of a sweet tooth, so.
Yeah, I do too.
Do we want to talk about Offerman?
Let's do it.
Ready?
All right, awesome. All right, so the Offerman series. Just tell the story. So, if you guys are fans of Parks and Recreation or know the actor Nick Offerman, right? He has very naturally become the best celebrity brand ambassador we could ever ask for Lagavulin. It could not be a more perfect fit and organic fit. So, uh, right, he played the character Ron Swanson on the show. At some point, him and the showrunner Mike Shore realized that Lagavulin 16 was both of their favorite drink. So Mike put a bottle of Lag in Nick's desk as he's like, doing a scene as Ron, and so kind of surprised him with it. And that was kind of the beginning of them starting to incorporate Lagavulin 16 into the character of Ron. We got free press from this show for years. And the first time that we ever invested in it as a partnership or a brand partnership is when we did the episode at the distillery. Um, and even like I guess like I don't know exactly the timeline, but the legend has it that Nick's people were reaching out to us about creating some sort of partnership, but it just never happens that way. Normally, like right, like we're the ones reaching out to the celebrity or other. It just doesn't typically work like that. We're the ones who are usually trying to like initiate the partnership, right? And so, especially when it comes to celebrities. And so we just ignored the emails because we thought they were fake. And it was like 4 rounds, right? Yeah, and it was like 4 rounds of email supposedly until finally we were like, I guess we should see. And it ended up being legit. And so probably like 10, I guess 11 years ago now, 12 years ago now, Nick started doing kind of like, yeah, like we created a partnership with Nick. And then in 2019, we started toying around with creating his own version of Lagavulin. And so we were going to release them as a 10-year. And I think it was 2018 we started. We were going to release them in 2019 as a 10-year, but then we had this little thing called the Game of Thrones line that we did. And so we put the Offerman thing on pause, and the barrels were just kind of there. So we just let them be. And in 2020, we were like, well, they're 11 years old now, but I guess it's time. And so we said, well, screw it. We're going to do an 11-year with Nick. And we did it that way. But the process is actually amazing. And he's very involved. So what happens is he'll fly out to the distillery. He'll talk with Stuart, our master blender, and then they'll kind of like Stuart will share some trends or it's just some of the things that they're working on, like innovation wise. And then at the same time, talk to Nick about like what he's liking or what he's interested in. What are kind of the aspects of like his life that he wants to incorporate into these bottlings. And then he'll go back. Stuart will take those notes and then send him usually like 6 blind bottles. So they'll come in these blue bottles, so he can't even look at the color, right? And he's got to taste them, take notes, and pick his top three. And so far, Nick has been 4 for 4 on his favorite and Stuart's favorite. So we're batting 1,000 with doing Nick's number one choice. So yeah, we did kind of like an oak cask in the beginning. The second version was the Guinness cask that's blowing up on the chat right now. And the third version was a charred oak and Pinot Noir cask that was supposed to pair perfectly with steak. And then charred oak's available. You should be able to see charred oak.
Cool.
And then last May we released the Offerman the Caribbean rum cask. So uh, I think this is amazing. We've never done a Lagavulin in a rum cask before. They we do an 8-month second maturation in those, and they go in rum casks. So you're getting a ton of like rum influence on here. Really, really cool whiskey in my opinion.
Yeah, it's still got the smoke, but it's also got the funk from the rum has like weaved its way into it.
Right? Yeah, it's like
Funk.
there's like a meringue quality, right? Kind of like a lemon meringue. I mean, I get like banana notes, personally, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's like salt. It's still salty. I love it. I love this one.
Which rum? Can you say what rum it was aged in? Like what barrels?
I'm
Like some
not
more.
allowed to reveal exactly where those rum casks are from,
But we won't say anything. I promise.
especially during the recording. But we can talk later.
There's
Uh,
no recording
Well,
in
you
the
said
chat,
you
is
said
there?
banana, so I can only assume it's something. Yeah.
it's
An island rum.
it's obvious. Yeah.
Well,
I will say this is my least favorite of the Offermans.
Yeah.
But that's because I'm not a fan of the rum cask, just in general.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
So
I mean, I'm like a daiquiri nerd too. Like I'm lucky that in this role I haven't had to, spend my own $100 or so, I think sometimes these get down to like 75. So I have the luxury of being able to make a daiquiri with this rum cask
oh yeah,
and
no, that makes perfect sense.
awesome. Yeah.
But that
Yeah.
that said, it's not like I'm going to pour it down the sink. I mean,
Right.
I'm going to drink it,
That's
and
good.
I'm going to enjoy drinking it. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Vadim Zacapa. Yeah. Well, hey, man, that's one of mine now. So here we go. Fire it up. Um, yeah, but again, I have a sweet tooth, so I love this stuff. Like I love that. I love like the sweet, salty smoke, right?
This is almost like fruit cake. I'd compare it kind of to the is it the Midwinter's Night's Dram from High is it High West? It's got that sweet kind of date flavor to it, and it's like more of a honey than a sugar.
I feel like High West does do a winter. I'm not 100%,
I
but
Yeah,
think they do
midnight.
Midwinter's Night
It's
Dram.
the one everybody goes absurdly crazy about. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and it's oh God, it's syrup.
yeah.
I'm you can tell I'm not a fan.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of the was it the Laura bars, the protein bars that are made.
Uh,
it's dates and oats and honey, and the whole
yes.
thing is held together by
Five
that.
ingredients.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I don't. Do you guys feel like this is syrupy though? Because that's another thing I think that's kind of cool about this one. It doesn't feel like I feel like the distiller's
Mm-mm.
edition is thicker than the Offerman.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it
agree.
is definitely.
Yeah.
But it is one of those things it fascinates me immensely that you can take, a liquid, and then depending on what you store it in for some time, the different characteristics that you get out of it, right? I mean, because this
Eight
is,
months.
yeah,
Eight
it's a
months.
Lagavulin, but it's very different.
Yep. I think that's super cool too.
I think there's probably also there's a bitterness to this that has kind of an edge to it that some people might not like, along with it's not too sweet to me, but it definitely has like a raisin date sweetness to it for me.
Do you guys remember the Oban rum cask special release? Yeah, right.
Mm,
Um,
get that
like
one.
that major difference, right? And those rum casks are coming from the South America
Hmm.
for context, right? 2023 special release. Part of the reason I will say part of the reason we can't talk about like why we have to call it Caribbean rum cask has to do with the strictness of like where you age, right?
Yeah.
So um for us it was more important to age the whiskey at Lagavulin versus being able to talk about where those rum casks are coming because those rum casks have if you name the region of the rum cask it has to age there.
Oh, that's really that's smart.
It has to do with the
Yeah.
specificity of that specific Caribbean rum.
Ah, interesting.
More clues. All right. Can I move on? Yay. All
Yes.
right. So we're going 2023 special release. Um, thank you. I don't have these bottles on me because I poured them out at my last in-person event and I don't have access to these anymore. So thank you, by the way, for sending me these. That was awesome. But
Aw.
I can also send links. You can see it on the Eventbrite page too, what those bottles look like. But this is again another like super, super cool Lagavulin because contrary to the Don Julio aged in Lagavulin casks, this is a Lagavulin aged in Don Julio casks.
Oh.
So yeah, so with the 2023 special release program, we did this thing that we called Spirit Exchange. And so what we wanted to do, I talked about this with Open a little bit too, right? Like we wanted to bring Scotch to different cultures of the world um and collaborate. So uh with Lagavulin we did Mayan Mexican culture, right? Kleinleash, we did like the Bourbon Trail, so New American Oak, Talisker, we did port, so we did like ruby, tawny, white port casks. Mortlick, we did Japanese whiskey Kanasuke casks and Pinot Noir. And so all the artwork on those bottles reflect that as well. Oban, we called it Age of Calypso with the rum casks. We did a Cameron Bridge one. I don't know. I feel like I'm missing some. We did no, Kleinleash was the Bourbon Trail. Anyway, um, Spirit Exchange, right? And so this is a 12 year. We did a 6 month finish in the Don Julio and Yeho cask too. Not so a Don Julio and Yeho cask, right? And again, I think this is also cask strength, folks. So buckle up. We're at like 57 and change, I think, on this, or 56 and change on this one, something like that. But it says it on these 56.4. So yeah. Hi, how are you? Oh, nice. New to the special release. That's amazing. This one's still, you can still find the 23 special release. It's still around. It's expensive. It retails anywhere between like I've seen it anywhere between 140 and like 190 bucks. Um, but cool whiskey. It's polarizing, a bit polarizing, I think, for folks. Um, but I don't know. I think this is a cool collab.
Hmm. I really like the combination of the agave in there. It's so interesting because tequila is charred with agave, and then the Lagavulin is charred with the peat, and then they kind of meet in the middle with it, but you still get that um that kind of it's not lime because there's no lime added, but it's that kind of citrusy edge to it as well. Or maybe it's just that my brain is like, oh, hey, it tastes
You
kind of like tequila, you add lime.
No,
So,
there's a fruit note. You're gonna maybe think I'm crazy, but like think about strawberry as you taste this. Like very, very, very subtle strawberry.
Well, it's close. I was thinking kiwis.
But yeah, that's not bad. Yeah,
mm,
that's cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, but there's
kiwi
like
has got that greenness to it too.
yeah.
there's a little bit of a bright, I agree, like a bright,
Hmm.
which if you think about it, I mean, we have a lot of citrus in Log 8, so
Right.
that would be a good pull through.
Yeah.
I think it'd be really neat to see what like a mezcal cask would do to a Lagavulin.
Oh
Ooh,
gosh.
Be smoky as hell, but be pretty interesting.
Yeah.
We when I visited Singleton, oh, that was the other special release. Singleton, we did sh Chardonnay casks. We did France. Um, when we visited Singleton, they were messing around with mezcal casks. And so they had like a 17-year barrel and a with a mezcal cask finish.
Wow,
It was cool.
man.
A sharp scent. Um,
This one really needs water to
Well,
sharp.
yeah, I mean, if if we could be a little bit more specific, but I think it's just because of the cask strength, right? Like you have
Mhm.
less dilution, so more flavor.
That I think so.
Yeah.
I love high cask strengths. Like I'll go up to like Booker's for a 130, just it's like the alcohol kind of burns away everything but the flavor. And you get the distilled version directly to your tongue with it.
I
So,
was
am I correct in assuming that you're more of a bourbon girl than Scotch?
I'm a what girl?
More bourbon over Scotch?
No, I'm a
No.
Scotch and rye girl. I don't like
Okay.
bourbon much at all.
It's just that generally, I feel a lot of bourbon folks, they can't get it hot enough. So
Oh, no. Yeah, for me it's that the amount of flavor that you get as you get higher, like especially with Booker's because they have so many that they do. They have like what, 2 to 3 bottle releases a year. So it's like, for example, I can go back to a Booker's from 2018, which I have in my library, and compare it to another any other Booker's. And you're immediately going to be able to taste the flavors against each other. I'd say it's almost like hot peppers. If you have too much heat, sometimes you can't taste the sweet. So it kind of cuts part of that out, I think. And
I,
no, I can't take hot peppers.
I'm admittedly not a huge bourbon person myself, but I do find that like when Scotch is at cask strength, the flavor changes a lot more.
Hmm.
Yeah, for what that's worth.
Though the
No,
irony
I
is
mean, that's interesting.
I've gotten more people into Scotch by telling them to pair it with a steak and having it on the
Hmm.
rocks. And Lagavulin 16, and actually there's another one that is a rum cask finish. The two of them are my top two suggestions for bourbon drinkers. Have it on the rocks and have it with a steak. And even though it tamps it down, what's left, the flavors that are left when you put it on ice are still the dominant, amazing flavors, but it makes it a little more accessible for them.
Yeah, that's cool. I also love like for Lagavulin, I mean Talisker is famous for it, but I think Lagavulin's great with it too. I think the rum cask is cool for it. But oysters and even baked oysters and stuff.
Oh,
Yeah, I
yes.
mean, you go to Talisker and like you got to walk a little bit up the hill, but they have this little oyster shack, and they're giant oysters. You bring a bottle of Tally 10 up there, and it's just raw oysters, lemons, and then the Tally 10. You squeeze the lemon on the oyster, shoot the oyster, pour Tally 10 into the big oyster shell, and chase it.
Wow.
Unbelievable,
Mm.
unbelievable. Yeah. And we're trying to be fancy too. We've been doing like caviar pairings with the peated scotches too. Like that's been a lot of fun. We'll do it with the Highland or I'm sorry, the Space Sides too. Like we've been do like because like Mortlick is more of like a luxury brand for us. So we'll do a bunch of sherry cask Mortlicks um and caviar. It's fun. Yeah, it is a party. Expensive party.
So now we have to do a Talisker tasting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love Talisker. I grew up in the Boston area. My folks live in Cape Cod now, so that
Oh,
whole like
that
oyster
saltiness.
seaside culture, that's my jam.
Hmm.
Talisker before the destroying the existing distillery.
So yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I know. I'm bummed, but
Yeah, the Diageo have a way to go with their fan.
yeah,
So
yeah.
is Triple Eight Distillery still up there around Cape? I think it was in Cape Cod.
Say it again.
Triple Eight.
Yeah,
They made vodka.
okay.
I wonder if so. There's Cisco. I've heard of the brand AAA. I'm not sure where that is, but Cisco for like something local. Like, there's not a whole lot of distilleries in Massachusetts. It's more like breweries, a lot of beer, right? But Cisco in Nantucket distills, and they've got like, I believe they have like vodka, gins, and potentially rums on top of the beers that they make too. Yeah, a lot of beer in New England. Yeah, God, we have like Sam Adams, Harpoon. I mean, the Vermont ones too. Made like Lawson's. Love Lawson's beer.
Oh, they were in Nantucket.
They are in Nantucket. Yeah, all right. So I maybe Cisco bought them.
Yeah, because they
The
got.
the, the
I had to
Cisco.
Google them again.
Say it again.
I Google. Yeah, they are Cisco.
Yeah, that makes sense. The Cisco campus is amazing. It's such a fun take. They got like all these different bars. There's a stage, a lot of live music. It's like indoor, outdoor. It's a really cool space. And then we got Whistle Pig up in Vermont too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on this 23 special release before we move to the 22? Good things. All right.
Great.
Yeah, great things. So another 12 year here. Getting one cap. So all oak bourbon casks here again, but these are from our smokiest reserves of our Lagavulin. So again, it's more I think about barrel char. PPM still the same, but a little bit even higher ABV here. So again, like if you want a little splash of water in this, that would probably go a long way. But I'm a psycho and I love cask strength whiskey and I like it neat. So hi. But also another like super cool whiskey.
This doesn't seem like it has much color compared to the other one.
Yeah, but I think both of them, well, yeah, I mean both
Both
of
of
them are
them
pretty
are
light.
light, yeah,
Yeah, both of
but
them are pretty light. I mean, um
hmm.
I think it probably I mean they're the cast strengths, the special like there's nothing there's no they're natural. There's nothing added into them, right? There's no coloring added. So
But there isn't in the 8 or 16, is there?
there's not an 8. There may be a bit in 16.
Ah, okay.
Distillers no, Offerman no, everything else no. To be fair, I'm not 100% on 16, but looking at it potentially.
Yeah, I think the 16s always had it, but that was because that was the only thing they had, and it was just
Yeah.
they still do it.
Yep.
I think there needs to be, whenever we do which one is best, there needs to be all of the above.
Good lineup here, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's can't miss. I feel I don't yeah, can't miss with Lagavulin. Can't miss. How do we like the 22 versus the 23?
It's almost like a an almond marzipan. Uh, who
Yeah.
mentioned the Danish cookies before?
Yeah.
Like that kind of clear flavor across your tongue. Biscuits, is that what they call them?
If you're British, yes.
Ah,
It's funny. I did not get the marzipan thing, but as soon as you said it out, my brain said, "Yep."
Yeah.
mhm.
Less fruity for sure too.
Yeah, it's almost like a white peach.
Oh.
Yeah, this one reminds me more of when it was just the years when Lagavulin was just releasing the 12-year cask strength ones. And this is more, it's Lagavulin just ramped to 12.
Yeah, this is great.
Yeah, it's like Budweiser versus Bud Light, right? Yeah.
But
Bud
this is definitely one that, I mean, the first sip I had of it, I didn't necessarily care for very much. But now that it's sat and got a little bit of let it sit and breathe a little bit, it's really getting really good.
That's good. Are you someone who likes a little bit of water?
Yeah, I mean, I very often do a drop or two of water. I mean, in the interest of science, of course,
Yeah, yeah,
when I drink, and I find it fascinating how a couple of drops of water can completely change some whiskeys. Right? There's others
It's
where
amazing.
when you add some water, it's kind of nope, should not have done that. Right? I mean, but others, it's kind of like, oh my god, my mind is blown. Um, so I add a little bit to this one. Again, I'm not a proof whore, and and then let it sit a little bit. And yeah, now I'm a fan of it.
Mhm.
I
I
was
just did
literally just telling my wife that these two were probably my least favorite ones.
Oh, wow. I think it's funny is that I have stuff I personally right now I'm only sipping tasting. So most of my library of stuff it's like, it lasts a long time. So I was talking with a friend and he was saying that shoot, you just my brain just totally lost the script. I'm so sorry. When it
you were
comes back
you
to
were
me.
tasting you're tasting, you're not drinking too much. You get a lot of like you're going through bottles slowly. We were talking about diluting
Right.
whiskey.
Oh, oh, oh. Yes, so thank you so much. It's revisiting bottles is what I was thinking. And I have bottles that I opened, years ago now. I come back to them and I thought they were just trash. And the reason why they were still in the house is because I'm not drinking, right? So I'll go back and I'll sip some of the other bottles and it's like, wow. And I just recently had a bottle sent to me of rye whiskey that was very thin, very young tasting, and really just not overall, I wouldn't consider it a great starter at all, like not by itself. And within 6 weeks, it became this amazing different bottle just by sitting for that amount of time. So yeah, I think even when you have it sipping, like for example, I have different glasses for every single taste. So now I can go back after having this one and try another one against it. And then those will have sat and opened up. So I think oxidation is great.
There's definitely something to be said about time between. I mean, I essentially drank Lagavulin, every day for the past like so I shifted from Mortlach to Lag Oben in March and essentially drank Lagavulin and Oben almost every day, right? From March until we left for our wedding in mid-September. And I haven't had it. This is my first time drinking Lagavulin in over a month. And
Wow.
it's just it's awesome to read. It's yeah. It's still you spend so much time in steeped into it. You take a little bit of time away. Even like reading my notes, and I'm like reading things about the distillery, and I'm like, how did I miss this before? Like there's just different things that pop when you take a little bit of time away.
Hmm.
Um, I think that's yeah. It's been awesome. Something to be said about
The
celebration.
special releases are basically the 12-year old because it doesn't like say special release on the bottle, right?
On the 22, 23, it does say it on the bottom,
Or it
and
does.
24, it does say, especially you'll see them on it'll say them on the label, but it'll also, I don't have one on me right now, but it'll have it on the
Get
neck
in
too,
the cup.
and it'll have the year on the neck. What has been your favorite so far as an ambassador? Whiskey wise? Is that the question? What's been my favorite whiskey so far, or brand to work on? So yeah, whiskey. You know, the 2023 Rosile 12 special release
Oh yeah.
has blown my mind. And it was we got married in Cape Cod. I brought scotch to that. We had scotch at my wedding, of course, but then we went to Italy, and I didn't touch scotch, in Italy. We were there for 2 weeks, and then I've been steeped in vodka, gin, and rum since I've been back. So I hadn't. This is the longest I've gone in over 2 years without having a glass of scotch. And the first glass I had that I pulled was the Rosile 23 special release, the 12. It was on, but what Yanks? We got baseball. Good things happening with baseball. Um, um, but the Rosario 12 is amazing. It's the very first, yeah, it's the very first bottle that they released under their own banner. That one's super special to me. What the Mortlake 23 special release is also insane. The Pinot Noir and Konosuke cask. I mean, I'm a Red Sox fan. I hate both these teams, so this is a terrible World Series for me. Uh,
Now in Italy, did you try any Puni?
no, I didn't try any Puni. I don't even know what can you enlighten me?
That's that's an Italian single malt.
Get out of
Oh.
here.
Puni.
No way. I gotta write that down. No, I was steeped in Negronis and Spagliatos for two straight
Okay.
weeks, essentially. Um, and w when we were in Rome, I went to Freni e Frizioni. It's they just got like they just cracked the like top 60 bars in the world. Great spot. But no way the Dodgers came back. Wow. Wow.
See, I grew up in Pittsburgh, so I never have to worry about the World Series.
Well, I grew up
Well,
in San Diego, so we got far this year, but that was it. Like, I don't think we've ever had we're all like, fair and foul weather fans, but we don't get many awards.
Padres are getting close. They're with the way the Red Sox are running their business right now, we're not going to see it anytime soon.
That's the problem with Pittsburgh. They get a good player, they sell them or trade them or do something with them.
Yeah, yeah. I, I grew up in Indianapolis. What's baseball? Yeah.
I mean, I'll be honest. When it comes to baseball, I'd rather sit and watch paint dry.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah. Yeah. I do love baseball. Um,
So,
yeah.
Jason, do you have a poll?
Are
I
you putting up a
do. I've got
poll?
to pull through it. All right. First one up for the night. There we go. What was your favorite expression of the night? Wrong answers only.
Left out all of the above.
Oh, 23 special release. Let's go.
Michael's happy.
Look at that. Nice. No love for the eight. God damn. No, I'm kidding. This is a tough lineup for 8 year to be a part of.
Oh,
Eight. The problem with eight is it's a great whiskey on its own, but it's the least like Lagavulin, which is great as an entry level because it gets to be different and it gets to do its own thing. But if you want Lagavulin, it's the least Lagavulin.
That's fair. Kind of ironic, but fair.
That's an interesting comment because I mean, as I said earlier, there's definitely days where I would I prefer the 8 over the 16. I mean, I distinctly remember the first time I tried the 8, I was kind of like, "Holy shit, this is good!"
Yeah.
I was completely floored, especially as you were saying. But I mean, the price point in it is just remarkable.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, given our current state of what whiskey costs, right?
Well, that's
But yeah, but you're
that's
right.
true, and let's not mention the fact that Diageo seem to be they like this. They're very proud of their special editions.
Hmm.
That is correct. Yeah, yeah. But hey, I'm not going to talk about other peeps, but
All right.
there's people are indulging in their pricing.
Hey, I mean, it's kind of like what you're seeing with the secondary market, right? And you see Suntory. They said, "Oh, people are willing to pay this for Yamazaki. Okay, we'll charge that much, no
Hmm.
problem."
Yeah.
Hmm. Even like Hakushu, right? Which is like
Yeah,
way smaller. It's like, holy crap. Love that whiskey. Delicious whiskey, but dang.
I mean, it's a great whiskey for $99 at Costco, right? But those days are over.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know if you still can, but for a while you could get Oban at Costco for like
Oh,
six,
yeah.
Oh yeah,
$64.
right.
They were selling it
That's
cheaper
why
I
I
at
go for
did.
the Lagavulin 16
they were
for
selling it
80
cheaper at
bucks.
Costco than we could sell it,
Yeah.
in on-prem.
I mean, when I started getting into whiskey less than 10 years ago, living in Boston, uh, I could get Lagavulin 16 for $65.
Right.
And then I
Yeah, but
moved to
that's
Michigan where we have state minimum pricing and it's a buck 15.
but that's back when you could get a cake bread for like $15. I mean, come on,
Ah, cake bread. Let's go.
right? I
All
used
right.
to I used to stock up on cake bread and oh God, I can't remember the other one. And then now they're just so expensive. It's like, yep, we used to get them from a friend up in the hills in Rolling Hills in Rancho Palos Verdes.
Yeah.
They had a hookup from high school. The guy had a liquor store and they would just go in and pick up bottles. It was interesting.
All right. So I don't forget before we finish up, everybody get on camera if you're not already, and we'll take our picture. Uh, thank you, Brett, for this evening. Lovely whiskey, lovely company. And thank all of you for joining us.
This has been a fun ceremony. This is a great way to put a nice exclamation point on Scotch for me. I can't wait to be back. Someday I will be. So this has been a treat, guys. Thank you so much.
Yeah, au revoir.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Cheers, everybody.
Cheers, cheers.
There we go.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'll link Genevieve, like I'll link with you. I'll get connected with Vadim afterwards so I can send the distiller's edition spec and all that stuff. And yeah, we'll
Rad.
take care of it all after the fact. But thank you guys so much. Yeah, I always enjoy doing these with you. So I I could have passed this off. Paul Jones, our Johnny Walker guy, was like, I'll do it. I'm like, no. I gotta do this. I gotta do this. I wanted to do this with you guys. So this has been a treat. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Does
Thanks.
anybody have anything before I stop the recording and then we
Stop it.
can ask things that we're
Get
not
the
allowed to say in
gossip. Get
public?
the gossip.
We love Paul, by the way. He's amazing. We love Paul. I was just being selfish. I wanted to do this.
All right. I'll finish our recording. Thank you, everybody.